And what we have to figure out is that there are really people that are hurting because of our lack of communication, our inability to get over the thing that is a simple, elementary principle of communication, of being able to exchange information and ideas. And even when we disagree stylistically, we can still find a way to find the point of equity. We've used diversity and inclusion for years, but equity was always missing. And when I think about this idea of what we want to do today, I think about inequity in itself as a bad game of musical chairs, whereby, unfortunately, so many of the people who are most vulnerable, every single time the music stops, the most vulnerable people among us are always the ones left standing. You know, we love talking about race. I'm going to get there because that's what I do. But when I teach my methods class and we do critical methodology, anytime you say critical, everybody's like, oh, all critical literally means is look again, right? We're asking people to look again. Our methods aren't really speaking to the experience of the people because in truth, I mean, we understand this graph and I didn't even have to put words on it. We've been doing this for centuries where women have been undervalued in their compensation, in their presence, in their voice. And then we say we need equity. We can be honest about the truth. I mean, we don't need words for this. We understand the differences qualitatively and quantitatively that have been presented based on the statistics, based on the stuff we know colloquially, but it's like we keep getting stuck having the same, I don't get it. It's a bad game of musical chairs, and there are a lot of people that get left out. What we found out in corporate America is that literally people who feel excluded within their corporate work environment are 25% less likely to be productive. Meaning, if I could just get you 10% more involved, we can bump our bottom line by 10%. If I can get those people off the bench that have skill sets that aren't being utilized because we ain't talking to them. You saw the symbol of inequity. You saw the confrontation, and you saw a resolution because they were willing to get over that one little moment. Like, I didn't like what you said, but you know what? You cool though. Let's keep talking. What is it that stops us in our workspaces? I'm not talking about outside. I'm not talking about in my home. I'm talking about at work. I am saying to you, listen, I'm good with like literally like 99.9% of the stuff that goes on. But this one little thing right here, can we tone that down? Just for me. Let me explain why. That's inclusion. That's the work of saying, I'm allergic to peanuts and shrimp. And if I told you I'm allergic to peanuts and shrimp and coconuts, and you bring me coconut shrimp and a bowl of peanuts, I don't think you want me at your house. That's just me, right? I'm thinking you're trying to say something to me, right? And my dad was like, you need to stop telling people that, son. They're going to kill you. They know what I'm like. Military, he's a Marine, he's a vet, he's like always on one. But I laugh because when we express what we need, are we willing to step up and do it? And what we know, research tells us that once that expression happens and inclusion appropriately surfaces within organizations, there's a 40% bump in revenue. We know these things. And while we're focusing on the object of the social identity, in this case, it was race. Sometimes we're talking about sexuality, or sometimes we're talking about gender. Sometimes we're talking about SES. But whatever the social object, set that to the side and get to the thing that's doing the thing. It's not whether, in my opinion, race matters. Because if we really learn how to talk to each other, what we'll start finding is that our culture has created something else and a new question. That one, doing equity is an iterative process. We're going to get it wrong sometimes, right? We all like breakfast. I love my pancakes. But let's be honest, that first pancake or two is terrible. I don't know whether the stove is too hot. I don't know what we do. We always either burn it, it's too light, it's not good, you throw it out. It doesn't mean we won't have breakfast. It just means we need to try again. And when we do equity, that means sometimes we're going to mess up. We can't indict everybody. It's iterative. We have to keep going. And then we have to actually do equity by using data, surveil the data and believe it. Don't believe it from the stigma side, but believe it from the side that we can do better. Right? Once you've done number one, then you get into understanding those barriers that actually impact the people in those statistics, which means we need to have some conversations. We need to talk. We need to keep talking. We need to get multi-dimensionally conversations where you're going over and over. You want to hear this so much. You know why? As leaders, if you put all the pressure on yourself to walk into a room and know it, you're going to be wrong. Let the people tell you what they want. When we begin these conversations, we all got questions. But I want you to remember, don't speak. Once somebody kind of empowers you and tells you a little something, please don't just go straight to the mic and you starting to speak for them and you didn't even speak to them, and get okay with sharing their stories and those experiences, because that's traumatizing, right? Because we want to handle people with care because they trust you. Let them give you that permission. In some cases, let them tell you when it's okay to say, like, don't even worry about it. I just needed to tell somebody, right? I need you to be my lunch buddy. The other thing is avoid the guilt-centered dumps. Like, some people just come to this space and never knew. And I'm glad that you are awakened to it and all that kind of stuff. No, you ain't do it. I know Blanche Hollingsworth didn't do anything to Don Cheadle, right? But it was that moment where it was like, dang, I got to get over me. And he's like, I got to get over me too, because I think you're cool. So don't miss that moment. Last thing on this, and don't, inequities paralyze us. They paralyze us. When people say crazy things, most of the time, I always smile when people say, like, oh, somebody called me to whatever, I'm going to fight them and this, that, and that. When people have done the most ignorant, just racist stuff to me, I pause. I actually don't say, it's like, did you just do that? Right? And you miss the moment, honestly, because you're kind of like, I can't believe that just happened. I think everybody else is in the room like, I can't believe that just happened. And then by the end of the day, they're gone, the thing happened, and then 2 weeks later, and it's like, now you want to talk about it, but it kind of seems like you're kind of bringing up old stuff. So it's like, how do we start dealing? Don't get paralyzed, correct, right? So unplug these symbols and let's do it by infusing equity. When people say what makes them feel affirmed at work, that's our strategy session. We need to take all of that data back and build out a structure, because again, being a leader is going to be different than being an ally, right? And I'll get to that. Leader to leader. This is an important piece. I always show this slide because I think we work with a lot of executives. It's so, like I said, 2 years ago, I never would have thought, we sit in rooms now, it's all C-suite people, right? To the point where I started realizing they don't know how to talk to each other about this. They're struggling with this. So what we have to do is, number one, we got to cut them jokes and stuff. Like, let's do that later. Like, we're cool, but we can joke later, because that's what's really hurting us. But a lot of our business leaders, they're struggling because they don't know if they're on the right side of history. And I was telling our driver as he was bringing me over, and we were talking about what I was going to talk about today. And, I told him something where I think leaders, and I likened it to the president of the United States. Most people think presidents are the quarterback if you think about a football team. I don't believe that, right? It's like, oh. I actually think the president sets the line. They're the O-line. right? They're the ones who get everybody out the way, and all the skill players really do the stuff, right? As a leader, you got to set the line. You got to say, we're going here and I'm going to clear the path for you. We can't do equity if you don't clear the path. Everybody wants to be the quarterback and tell everybody what to do, but can you clear the path? Can you make a hole so that people that couldn't get in now can? I'm trying to push us to get to that point, but I want you to know you're on the right side of history, right? And as you're doing that, if you're hiring CDOs, chief diversity officers, don't just hire them to do programs. They're your strategist. They're a strategist to look, are we infusing equity in these moments? Because this is also revenue. Think about how many people, communities aren't being touched by our businesses. We got money. Talk to us. Invest. Have the authentic conversations to do that. Sweat the small stuff. Because the small stuff matters right now.